Hey guys, Tom with Permaculture Wilmington here. Hope you're having a great day. Nice to see you. What we're going to be doing today is I've got a paint strainer. This isn't a really fine one. It's a paint strainer, but it's got decent sized mesh holes. They're larger than 400 microns. So 400 microns is what the organisms can't get or can get through, but it's the bare minimum. So we need 400 or larger, and these are like 160 microns, so they're a little bit larger, I believe. But anyway, the paint strainer is what you need. You need something to strain what we're doing today, and we're making some compost extract. And you can turn this into a tea if you'd like. But this oak tree is what we're going to be using in terms of the microbes for it. At the bottom here we have wood mulch and a lot of oak leaves that have a whole lot of organisms on them. So what we want to do is just get a few of the leaves and a handful of the decomposed mulch, because it has all these organisms in it. So I'm just going to, it's hard to do this stuff one-handed, but we're going to give it a try here. So I want some oak leaves that are good, and wow, look at all that mycelium already in there. So we don't want sticks because we don't want to poke holes in the bags. And we do want wood, because we know that the mycelium is decomposing the wood, so they would be on the wood. And this was all wood chips, guys, last year. This was just piled on wood chips, and since then it has just become this wonderful humus layer, broken down. It's basically just aggregated soil at this point, guys. This is compost. This is natural compost. And what is natural? Natural is the lack of human engineering. So aside from, you know, making the wood chips and putting them down, this is as little human engineering as we're going to get these days. So we just need to get some of the wood chips with mycelium, and I hope you guys can see those are hyphae, those white. It looks almost like roots, but they're white. That actually is a root right there. But some of these are not. Like a lot of the roots actually have white tips to them here. And that's hyphae on the end of that, so that's ectomycorrhizal. Ectomycorrhizal is on the outside. All right, guys, let me just see if I can find some more. I'm gonna show you so you can see what I'm looking for. I want to see good hyphae underneath whatever it is I'm adding. So this is all good. It's all good soil for the tree for sure. Here we go. You see these chips? You see that white, that fungus? That's what we want. There's some good fungi right in here. I bet if we go down and see a little more of the hyphae in there. That's treated wood, so we definitely don't want anything to do with that, even if it's old and decomposing. So I'm actually not even going to use that area here. We're going to come right over here and look around a little bit. Ooh, some good aggregation, some mealy bugs in there, some roly-polies. There we go, some centipedes, some earwigs. These are all good decomposers in here. So, and there's some good roots coming, and they've got bright white hyphae on the end. Here we go. There's some good stuff back in here. That's a great spot right there. So I'm just going to grab that. That soil, you can see all the roots here. This is a root, and those are mycorrhizal fungi on the end of those root hairs. So what we need to do is just put this in the bag with some of the leaves that we've got, and that's really it, guys. We don't need much. Like you guys can see, that's about all we need, is enough to massage in the water, and we're using rainwater that I'll show you in just a second. It's gonna be a trick to do this one-handed. So let's see if I can get the water. This is our bucket we're using. Got our air hose over here. All right. See if Tom can do this with his foot. Ah, look at that. Look at that. Like a monkey. I love it. Okay, so that's that. And now we are, you see that color that comes out? That's the humic acids and the fulvic acids. So now it's completely filling the water at this point. I can't even see through it very well. But what we're going to do is just massage this, and If I had two hands, it would be a whole lot easier, but we're just gonna rub the leaves together, rub the wood chips together. And that is just a beautiful color. That's what we want, is that 70% chocolate color. 70% chocolate color is the humic acids. That means that there's fungi in there, because fungi make the humic acids, and that's what the plants needs. They needs these things. Alright guys, so you get the gist of this, and then we need to add foods. So what I'm going to do is just go and get a little bit of honey, and put a spoonful of honey and maybe a spoonful of oat flour and a spoonful of dried or liquid kelp. And I actually happen to have some liquid kelp that I bought, so I'm going to dilute that in water first. That's why I've left a little bit of a rim around here. And we don't want this to go all the way up, and you have to adjust the water level for your air pump, because your air pump needs to be able to create circulation in here, but it needs to be able to boil and create a vortex. And if you don't get that vortex going and the surface isn't bubbling, you're not getting enough oxygen in there for the organisms to eat at the same time oxygen is diffusing in. So that's the trick. It's a balancing trick here. Alright guys, so I think you can handle adding a spoonful of honey and a spoonful of kelp and a spoonful of oat flour. So I think I'm just going to cut it off here. But what I'm going to do, a lot of people like to leave this in here, but Elaine Ingham says that we only really need to do this for 30 seconds to a minute if we're hand massaging it. If we're leaving it in to bubble in the stream of the bubbles here, so that it agitates and does it long term without actually abrasing it with our hands, then at that point it takes longer, so it'll take hours. So 3-4 hours, maybe leave it overnight, but don't leave it in permanently until the tea's done, because all the organisms will retach to the substrate, all the materials that are in the bag here. So, and we want to get them off. That's the whole purpose of rubbing all the materials together, is that the microbes are stuck to the outside, like the fungi is stuck to the outside, like you saw. And a lot of the organisms are the protozoa. There's lots of nematodes on here. So I've seen amazing stuff since I got my microscope and started doing this, guys. This is definitely interesting. It'll keep you entertained. It seems to be a new organism every time I do something. Every time I try a different liquid, a different type of growing materials, whether it's a pond, a lake, a stream, you know, aquaponics, hydroponics, everything, man. One pot to another, it seems like there's just something that pops up that I hadn't seen before, and it makes it so fascinating and wonderful to watch and just exciting. This is very, very exciting. But you can see how small this is getting now. So we're breaking it up. The high carbon materials are still in here, while a lot of the soluble materials, like the acids, they're all in the liquid at this point. Anything soluble is definitely out after this much abrasion, and hopefully the organisms are coming out as well, but we won't know until we look at the microscope. But I can tell you for sure 110% that is humic acid. So there is definitely plant available nutrition just from doing this, guys. All I did was grab a handful from under the oak tree, put it in the bucket. You don't even really need the strainer if you're just going to dump it out. You know, like I use the strainer so that I can make the tea, so that it, you know, you don't want particles sitting in the bottom creating aerobic environments in different areas of the bucket. So if you're making a tea, you need to strain it so there's nothing in there but liquid and not a lot of large particles. But if you're making just an extract and you plan on using it and putting it out in your garden right away, then really all you need to do is just combine the stuff in the bucket and go dump it somewhere, you know. But what I like to do is use like a 1 gallon jug, and I cut the top off and poke some holes in the bottom, and then I just drizzle it, and that way I can cover more area, but at the same time I don't have to deal with using a sprayer and all that stuff clogging up the sprayer, because that's just a pain. I don't like to deal with little meticulous things like that we shouldn't need to. You know, it should be just a matter of everything growing and life being wonderful, right? But it doesn't really work out that way. So we got to do these things. And this really isn't all that much effort once you get it going. Like, if I wasn't doing this video, I would have been done in 5 minutes, and then I'd be inside watching TV. You know, so this is really a learning process, and then once you learn it, it's second nature. It comes pretty easy, and it's very cheap. I mean, you don't really need anything except I had to buy kelp, and I did buy local honey. And I only use local honey. Do not use the high fructose corn syrup that you get from the grocery store that's labeled honey. If it comes from China or any of those areas, like outside the country, stick to local honey so that you know it is actually honey. And that's really important for the microbes. You don't want to put things in there that are going to grow certain things that we don't want to grow. And each food that we put in there, whether it's a leaf or some organic matter, it doesn't really matter. We can put lots of different things in here, but every material grows a different organism. So the materials I'm telling you guys to use here are the materials that grow the good organisms that we need to grow plants, to make biocomplete solutions and soil so that our plants can grow healthy. Those are the organisms that we're trying to attract, the organisms that the plants need. And there's lots of organisms in the soil, but they're not all for plants. Some of them are for decomposition. Some of them are for bringing soil back to health once it's lost oxygen or if it's in a state of compaction. So there's lots of different organisms and lots of different reasons for those organisms, and when they're not being used and they're not needed, they go to sleep. So what we want to do is get the good organisms from the mulch and the leaves and put them in here, and we want to wake them up with sugars. And that's how nature works. The plants put sugars in the soil, and it wakes up the organisms that the plant needs. So we're using essentially plant sugars is my understanding. That's why we use molasses, and that's why we use honey, because honey is sugars from a lot of different plants, a lot of different varieties of sugar, whereas molasses is a single plant, and it's 150 sugars from that one plant. And if you do use molasses, make sure it's unsulfured, definitely. So anyway, guys, I don't want to make this too long, so I hope you're having a great day. This is Tom with Permaculture Wilmington, and peace.